Hi everyone, my name's Michelle and I'm Mama Loves You GB here on FlossTube, but also over on Instagram and Etsy as well. Welcome to the Sunday morning briefing. It is the 10th of September today, so we are in the midst of Sampler September. How has everybody's week been? We've had the first full week back at school and it's just been crazy times. It always is. First week in September, you go back and you think, how did I ever do this? But yeah, everything's gone really nice and smoothly from my perspective anyway. We've got a new computer system, which is always worth throwing a spanner in the works for. But other than that, everything else seems to have gone really nicely and really smoothly. So other than just sort of tiredness and just getting back into the swing of things, I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy with how we're going so far. So I've got bits to show you today. I haven't been able to do quite a lot of stitching, but I'm very lucky that one of my friends has done a lot of stitching for me and I can finally show you her in all her glory, and I'll come to that first. I have made a start on one of my sampler models that I said. The other stitching that I've done has been on a project that I've needed for an event, so I can't quite show you that yet. So there is some stitching going on in the background, that secret stitching that I can't quite show you yet. But what I have done is I have gathered together my sampler books. So I thought what I'd do is show you at the end my collection of sampler books. So instead of showing you my sampler wall, which if you're interested to see is on Instagram, it's on my Instagram reels, I would show you my sampler shelf. So some books that you might be interested in trying to get hold of if you're interested in learning a little bit about samplers or more about samplers. So without further ado, I said to you last week that I had done another piece of framing, and I was going to save it to show you. So this is the piece that I have been working on and that I said to you would be available in September. So I'm going to give you some more details on that. So this is Sophia Stafford. Now poor Sophia was butchered from her frame, hence why the original is in such poor condition. She's been folded for quite a while and she's got quite a few little holes appearing, poor love. But she has got that fabulous, fabulous house. So this is Sophia Stafford, 1839. Now I've tried to find Sophia, but because there is no other information on the sampler, she is not the only, or there is not only one Sophia Stafford that we could look at. I have a feeling she may be from the Northamptonshire area because that's where the person I bought her from had acquired the sampler. That's only conjecture though. Sometimes when you get hold of a sampler, you find that it hasn't moved very far in a couple of 100 years. I suppose other times they turn up in all sorts of different places, but there is the outside possibility. So way back when, last summer, it might have even been the summer before, I can't remember now, I went down to the Patchwork Rabbit to collect threads and to choose threads for 3 different samplers. One was Susanna Eccles, that I was in charge of stitching. She is released. One was Sophia Stafford, who the lovely Catherine Dempsey has stitched for me, and she is about to be released. The other one, I was in charge of stitching, I still haven't done. So without further ado, here is the lovely Sophia Stafford in her frame. And if you saw last week, you might recognise the frame. I like this frame so much for Sophia Stafford that I had it for my Noel sampler as well. So this is Sophia Stafford. Now, she's actually throwing up quite a lot of yellow in the fabric at the moment, but she is actually stitched on summer khaki, a 40 count piece of summer khaki, slightly an older piece, so may not throw as much greens as it seems to now, but it is stitched on 40 count summer khaki with various over-dyed threads. And I think you'll agree, she looks amazing in that frame. Now, I said to you she was going to be released in September. just about. I plan on releasing the PDF of Sophia when I come back from the Great British Sampler Weekend. So after the Great British Sampler Weekend, she will be available in my Etsy shop as a PDF for you to download straight away. However, if you are going to the Great British Sampler Weekend, the Patchwork Rabbit will have paper copies of Sophia for sale, as they are a vendor at the Great British Sampler Weekend. So they will have paper copies available, and they will also have available the kit for Sophia Stafford. So if you're lucky enough to be joining me at the Great British Sampler Weekend and hundreds of other people, then if you're planning on doing any shopping at Patchwork Rabbit, you will be able to pick up not only the paper chart, but also the kit if you so wish. If you'd rather have the PDF or aren't going to the Great British Sampler Weekend, then the following week she will be available in my Etsy shop. She's fabulous. She's so fabulous. I'm going to have such a hard time returning this model to Catherine, but she will be going back to Catherine. Whether Catherine will take her into Patchwork Rabbit, I don't know, or whether she'll keep her at home. But I'll give you one more look at her in this frame. Now, I did have somebody actually ask me last week what the frame was. I linked the Picture Frame Express, which is where I got the frames from, but what I'll do is I will link the frame number or the frame name. It'll have a number or a name, probably both, and I will link that down below if you're looking to get this frame. This is the 5mm version, no, 50mm version. They also do it in a 20mm version, so it's a thinner frame as well. But I just love the moulding, and it's sort of worn away to like a reddish burgundy, which perfectly picks up the colours in Sophia Stafford. So if you don't already follow my Etsy shop, then is she going to stay there? She is there. There we go. If you don't already follow my Etsy shop, again, the link is down below. If you follow it, then anytime I release anything new, it will show up in your feed. And it will also show up in your feed if I have a sale or anything like that. So they do happen reasonably frequently, but irregularly, shall we say. Then it will also notify you that as well. So just recapped a little bit more there, I guess, just because I've had quite a lot of new subscribers recently. So if you're new, please let me know where you've come from. It's been quite a lot. So yeah, maybe somebody's given me a shout out and I haven't realised. So please let me know if you're new, where you found me from. Right, my stitching. I have made a start. I said I'd finished charting Charlotte Jekyll. There she is. And I have made a start on Charlotte Jekyll. And the one thing that I wanted to get right, as I said to you, was this lace look border. And I think I've achieved it. What I thought would work has worked. So this is a piece of, now it's either 30 count, it's got 30 count question mark written on it. I wrote on it. But I think it's 30 count Abecedarian. It's either 30 or 28 count, and I will measure it. I'll get around to measuring it when I've finished it. So this is where I've got to. Now, that is the lace border. I've achieved it by using two different types of threads. So I have used one strand of DMC 310 for the letters and also the fine lace work. And then for the outer part, it's perhaps easier to see a little bit further back, for the more dense parts, so the scalloped edge, these bits here, and there's an extra couple of stitches every so often, and this black border, I've used Gentle Arts wool. So I've used two strands of Gentle Arts wool and one strand of DMC 310. So it's made quite a difference in terms of the effect. So I've gone all the way along the end there to the queue. Excuse me, gone all the way along there to the end of the queue, and then I shall work my way along to the border and do the corner turns. So she's not going to be small because you need that bigger fabric in order to get that effect. Excuse me, bit of dust. Right, sticking with our sampler theme, because it's Sampler September, I have got a giveaway, and the giveaway is from the lovely Chloe, who I shall see at Stitch in London, who is Girl with the Gavel Stitches. Now, Chloe has released a few sampler charts, and I know she's got more in the works. She's got some fabulous samplers. So if you don't follow her, please do. She's on Instagram, not got a FlossTube. Chloe, an idea? Maybe. But follow her on Instagram and you see some of the beautiful samplers she picks up. Now I can see why she picked this one. This is by Catherine Williams, 1852. Look at that alphabet. How unusual is that alphabet? I love that. Love. So, although I'm going to be giving this away, I might very well stitch it myself too. So if you want to be in a chance of winning a PDF of Catherine Williams by Girl with the Gavel Stitches, if you can just put in your comment the word red. Tell me what red sampler you're stitching. What's your favourite red sampler? Have you got a red sampler on the go? If you haven't, don't tell Laura. There is a rule, you must always have a red sampler on the go at any given moment. So this would be perfect for Sampler September if you have not already started a sampler, or if you have a small window to start a new one. And there's always a small window to start a new sampler. Let me just give you a few details. Stitched on, the original was stitched on about a 40 count fabric, and it is 177 by 187. So not huge, beautiful sampler, but what stands it apart is that really unusual alphabet. Super unusual. So in your comment, use the word red, and I will know that you would like to be in with a chance for that. We'll give it 2 weeks because I always give my competitions 2 weeks, and then we'll see where we are. Right, now, the freebie. Something that a lot of us are. Now I've already stitched this, so I can actually show you a stitched but not ironed version. So, Samplermaker. This is the freebie. Now this is a freebie chart, and I'll just hold it right back there. A freebie chart from a Facebook group called Samplermakers. Now, I've forgotten, it's one of 2 people that designed this chart, and I can't remember which one it is, so I'm going to put the name across the bottom. It's one of 2 people who you will recognise. So there's no suggested colours. I did mine in like a browny purple and a cream on a piece of fabric. I would say it's a 36 count, but actually what it is, I don't know. I have just taken it out of my to be finished box to show you. Imagine that in red. Imagine that in red. I might have to do another one. I might have to do it. No, why did I think of that? Why did I say that? Darn it. So you have to be a member of that group, but why would you not be a member of that group anyway? And then it is in the file section, along with some other things. If you are a member of any groups, particularly stitching groups, it's always worth going back and checking the files, because people do put patterns that they've designed in the files or reproductions, and sometimes you just forget they're there. So it's definitely worth going back and having a look. Right, I'm going to show you a very small amount of haul that I have got this week, and then I am going to have a look, or show you through some of the sampler books, if that is your bag. So the first thing that came this month was my, excuse the rustling, fabric of the month by Crafty Kate, I get a, what do I get? A 32 count, a fat 8th, 32 count. So it's a beautiful kind of creamy, it's not yellow, it's definitely more cream, but it's the yellower side of cream. It's a yellowy cream, not a pinky cream, not magnolia. Beautiful. And that will definitely have a sampler of some kind on it, I should imagine, because it's a perfect sampler colour. I then bought some fabric from a seller that I use quite often on eBay, whose shop is in the description. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. And I wanted to get some fabric to back my autumn and my winter. Now, this is not the one that I chose for my autumn. This is a different one. In my head, this is a different one. I saw this piece of fabric, and when it arrived, I opened it, I was like, oh, she sent me the wrong one. It's got a green background. When I ordered it, I genuinely thought it had like an orangey background. And when I looked at the photo again, I was like, no, it's definitely got a green background. But in my head, I thought it had an orangey background. It may still work. I do still really like it. I don't know if I've got a selvage to tell you what it is, no. But it's a lovely autumnal fabric. So it may still work for the rear of my autumn. And then this is the one that I picked for my winter. And this, I do have a selvage. It is Clothworks, a Clothworks fabric, but I don't think I've got, no, the pattern name's cut off. But as I said, I share the eBay seller on my list, so you can go and have a look. But I love that, just with the pine cones and the sort of pine boughs, sticks, branches, you know what I mean. So I thought that would be lovely for the back of my winter. I got this because I liked it. I have no use for it as yet. Let's get them the right way up. The bats. How fabulous is that? How fabulous is that? So this is, can I tell you what this is? This is The Spirit to Create Free Print Fabrics by Rachel Hoyer. And that's it there. Beautiful. I also picked up a Teresa Kogut panel. Now, if I can actually show you this in one go, it's going to be a miracle. I love these Teresa Kogut panels. I have an idea that I just want to finish them kind of as they are, back them, and kind of hang them over the back of the sofa for Christmas. So not really do a massive quilt, just almost a quilt the size of the panel. So I'm going to have to pull it up to there. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I love Teresa Kogut. Teresa Kogut is so talented with everything. It's fabulous. So they were my purchases. And I also made one other purchase, which is in this, oh no, I didn't, two other purchases. I picked up a little Christmas sticker book from Amazon because I noticed that in my sort of vintage sticker book that I use for my book of days, there weren't many Christmas ones in, so I picked up a Christmas one, and I have already used it to sticker up my December. So my book is all stickered up now, which makes me happy. So what was my other purchase? My other purchase is in here somewhere at the bottom. Here it is. Oh, it was this one. So this is the start of the sort of book show and tell. If that's not something that you're interested in, then I'll see you next week. But I picked up this one on eBay, Patterns of Childhood. Sometimes this book's quite cheap, sometimes it's quite expensive. I think I paid about £5.95 for it. So if you like it, keep your eye out for it. If you see it at a good price, grab it. Sometimes it's more expensive, sometimes it's less expensive. And this is all about samplers from the Glasgow Museum. So they are mostly Scottish samplers, although they do have other types of samplers in there as well, because they have other origins at the Museum of Glasgow, or the Glasgow Museum. So that's about Scottish samplers. This one is also about Scottish samplers by Helen Wilde, and this is called Embroidered Stories. Now this is a lovely book, and what it does, pretty much like the Patterns of Childhood one, is it takes the samplers in turn. I'll just give you a quick flick through. It takes the samplers in turn and gives you a little bit of history about them, and also a little bit of social history about what was happening at the time that they were stitched, if it's pertinent to the sampler. Now I have got lots of Scottish samplers. I tend to gravitate towards Scottish samplers and Welsh samplers in particular. So that's a great book. Whilst we're on the working our way round, I have a book of Welsh samplers as well. Now this is small and it's not very big, and it's bilingual as well. So there is even half the information, because half of it's in Welsh. But this is a great book on Welsh samplers, and if you're interested in Welsh samplers, there is an Instagram site run by Mary Jenkins called Welsh Samplers, and she posts about lots and lots of samplers, and she's just put up a new one, which I actually helped her with the research for. And it turns out that it was a girl who lives probably 15 miles from me, so amazing. Other ones in my collection. This one is called Samplers and Samplermakers. So this is about American samplers. It's not terribly hard to get hold of this one. And again, it's got a similar format. It talks about the history of American samplers, but then what this one does is it takes you round the various different states as well. So you go around the various different states, and it helps you to, hang on 2 seconds. No, wrong one. This one just goes through the samplers in chronological order of America. This one, Samplers How to Compare and Value, the Miller Guide, covers samplers from the UK as well, but the bulk of it covers samplers from America and goes through the various different states. So you start to get a really good feel about the sort of styles from the various different states. But it does include British, Scottish, German, Dutch as well. So that's a really good one. I really liked that one. And price-wise, these are pretty affordable. I'm going to leave those to the end because they're not proper sampler books, but they are interesting. This one is called Sampled Lives, and this is from the Fitzwilliam Museum in Cambridge. And again, it goes through the various different samplers that are in their collection and gives you that sort of potted history of samplers and styles of samplers and how they developed. Pictorial ones versus band samplers versus spot motifs versus marking samplers. So some really, really beautiful ones in there. And these are just eye candy, massive eye candy. I could sit and flick through sample books just to my heart's content. Now these three, I would say, are beautiful, beautiful books, but they are not easy to get hold of, and they're not currently so cheap either, because they are all out of print and not so easy to get hold of. I'm going to start with this one because this is perhaps the easier one to get hold of. This is the book of the Feller collection. Now there are actually two books about the Feller collection which has now been sold off, so you might have seen samplers coming out onto the market and being released as reproductions, and they talk about being from the Fella collection. So this is the sort of catalogue of the Fella collection. The second book, this book goes from, so the books are dated. So the first book is the early part of the collection, so the earliest samplers in the collection. This book, I believe, is the later samplers in the collection. So volume 1 of the Michael and Elizabeth Fella collection documents stunning samplers from the 17th century. This one goes from the 18th century to the 20th century. Yeah, I did remember correctly. Now, this is not necessarily easy to get hold of, but Erna Hiscock did have a stock of these a couple of years ago. So it might be worth contacting her via her website, Hiscock Shepherd, and seeing whether she does still have any of these. If not, it would be via the secondary market, and then sometimes they can be a little bit pricey. Just it's got a bit of dust on the dust cover, that's what it's there for. Come on. So this one is a beautiful book, Imitation and Improvement, the Norfolk Sampler Tradition. So this is the gold standard book on Norfolk samplers, Norfolk samplers. And it takes you through all of these beautiful samplers with the lozenges in the middle. So for example, such amazing photography, and then it tells you about each one. There are so many samplers in this book to look at, and I need to do my research a little bit more, but I think my Norfolk may be related to one of the girls in this book, so I need to do my research, make sure I'm sure, and then if I am sure, I'll let you know. And then the last one I have is by Carol Humphrey. So this is the Quaker Schoolgirl Samplers from Ackworth. So this tells you all about those beautiful Ackworth samplers, about the history of the Quakers and the Quaker samplers, and the different types of Quaker samplers that you might see. We're very familiar, just get that page, with those type of Quaker medallions, but that wasn't the only type of sampler. A lot of them had, let me just see if I can find one. There was a lot of sort of text-based samplers as well, but they have a very specific font to them, a beautiful, beautiful font. So there's a couple of more marking style samplers there. Now, if you do get this book, you might not know, but if you open the dust cover and open out the dust cover, there is a chart for that sampler on the inside of the dust cover. So if you do find this book, that is definitely something to look out for. And the last two books that I've pulled aside are not really sampler books, but I do enjoy them. This one is about the stitching of Mary Queen of Scots and all of the stitching that she did and the motifs that she used in her stitching. And there is actually an online talk by Claire Hunter, who wrote the book called Stitching Her Stories. I think it's called Stitching Her Stories. If not, I'll put it down below. I've steamed up. About Mary Queen of Scots and her stitching, and it's on Wednesday the 13th, and I will leave details of how you can find that online talk. You can buy an online ticket and then you can join in. So it's on Wednesday, I think it's 6 p.m. BST, British Summertime, which we're still in. So I'm going to see if I can grab a ticket for that, and because I would love to hear her talk. It's such a good book. And then the last one is this book called The Pocket, and it's all about the tradition of the pocket, and there are some beautifully stitched examples to pore over and to look over in this book. So maybe a few Christmas ideas there, you never know. Anyway, that's all from me today. I love you and leave you. Stay classy, Stitchers.